In 1979, after the success of the first generation Z car, Nissan released the S130 chassis, better known as the Datsun 280ZX. The 280ZX was slightly bigger and more luxurious than its predecessors. At the time, Nissan needed to compete with the much larger American muscle cars and a rising international market for European luxury. The purpose of the 280ZX was to create a jack of all trades, a nimble Japanese GT car that you could drive all day on any type of road. Something quick, comfortable, and reliable. It was a polarizing car amongst Datsun's loyal fans, but it was very well received by the public. The 280ZX sold in record numbers. This is the left pedal, and here's the details on the Datsun 280ZX. Last week we talked about the original Nissan Z car, the iconic S30, which was unfortunately hit with a wave of government emissions regulations. After 3 separate models on the S30 chassis, Nissan finally decided to mostly start from scratch. In 1979, a decade after the original Z had launched, they gave us the 280ZX. The 280ZX was a little different than the earlier Zs. Over the 70s, the car industry was devastated by rising emissions and safety standards. The S30 had slowly changed from a pure sports car to more of a GT car. By the time the new chassis was released, Nissan made the decision to fully adopt the GT car status. The X in 280ZX symbolized luxury. These cars had lots of bells and whistles, including power steering, front and rear disc brakes, electric windows, electric mirrors, lots of interior space, and it even talked to you. The new model was about 2 inches wider than the previous Zs. Coming in at 66.5 inches wide, the car was 174 inches long with a height of 51 inches. It retained the basic shape and design of the older model Z cars, but traded in some of the sleek curves for sharp corners. While this body style may not be as iconic as the earlier Zs, it offered improved aerodynamics and a true 50-50 front to rear weight ratio. This move towards luxury was polarizing amongst Datsun fans. Really, there are still some old dudes that get mad just at the sight of a 280ZX. While the 280ZX was probably the most technologically advanced Datsun made, it, like the later model S30s, lacked the raw handling of the original 240Z. Don't write the car off yet though. While the 280ZX might not be the best handling of the Z cars, it did have a lot to offer. Much like the 280Z, the 280ZX was equipped with an L28 engine, a fuel-injected 2.8-liter single overhead cam inline 6 that pushed out about 135 horsepower for 1979 and 80. It'd be pumped up to peak 145 horses at 5,200 RPM for the later years. Despite the increase in size, the 280ZX was pretty similar in weight to the 280Zs that it replaced. In some cases, the larger new S130 was actually lighter. Depending on the options, it weighed in at about 2,700 to 2,800 pounds. They also offered a 2+2 model featuring back seats. These were a good bit heavier at 1,000,000 pounds. I'm just kidding, I kinda want one. The 280ZX accelerated from 0 to 60 miles an hour in about 9 seconds, with a quarter mile time in the 16 to 17 second range, and a top speed of 120 something miles an hour. The new Z held up against more expensive American and European cars at the time. The ZX retained a McPherson strut setup in the front, but the new rear suspension was a semi-trailing arm design. This caused a heavy squat under acceleration and is largely considered to be the 280ZX's biggest downgrade from the previous models. However, in 1981, Nissan found their answer to making the Z shine again. They threw a turbo in it. The 280ZX Turbo was equipped with the new L28ET, a modified, boosted version of the Datsun standard engine. The L28 turbo engine became insanely popular, and these days people throw them into all the older Datsuns. The turbo model boasted 180 horsepower at 5,600 RPM and over 200 pound-feet of torque. It pushed the car from 0 to 60 miles an hour in the 7-second range and ran the quarter mile in 15.5 seconds, crossing the line at 89 miles an hour. Keep in mind, back then that was a lot more impressive. According to a New York Times article in 1978, Nissan stated that they were not interested in competing with the hot new Mazda RX-7. They were focused on buyers looking at the Porsche 929 and the Chevy Corvette. The Z now had a top speed of over 130 miles an hour. Combined with a 21-gallon gas tank and a range of over 400 miles, it was now a true high-performance GT car. Nissan would continue selling the 280ZX through 1983. Despite subpar critic reviews, the new Datsun flew out the doors of the dealerships. This would turn out to be the last Fairlady Z under the Datsun name. As in 1984, Nissan released a totally new design, the Nissan 300ZX. The S130 280ZX is not the most popular Z car, but in hindsight, it's clear that Nissan took a lot of pride in their final Datsun Z. The original S30 had been declining in performance over the 70s. The 260Z and 280Z were slowly transitioning from sport-minded to comfort-focused. The 280ZX lacked the old-school curves and tenacious handling of the S30s. It did, however, give us disc brakes, power steering, and a turbocharger. We got to see a faster, technologically advanced luxury Datsun, and I think there's plenty of room in the automotive world for exactly that. Thank you guys for watching. In the next few weeks, we're going to cover all the other Z cars, so make sure to like and subscribe. I'm Soda Pop, this is The Left Pedal, and I will see you next time.